Alright, welcome back, people of the interwebs. On today's agenda, the first thing I am doing is pulling off my valve cover gasket. Because, I don't know if you guys remember, but I'm leaking a bit of oil. There's oil down there, if my camera wants to focus. Holy shit. So there's oil down there, on this side. This one's the less bad side. Then there's like, I cleaned it out, but there's a ton of that. Basically, it would just pool up in here, and it's really bad because then I get oil on my headers and whatever else, and oil just everywhere. And then here, I found out that for whatever reason, the gasket is literally coming out from the valve cover. So that is probably why I'm leaking so much oil, because the gasket's not even seated correctly over here. But unfortunately, I only have one side right now. So I'm doing this side right now. And then once the other gasket shows up, I can do the other side. But it's a pretty, fairly simple process. You just gotta, first thing I've already done is take out the coil packs. They're just bolts or nuts here. And then now I'm undoing basically all of these that hold the valve cover on. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep slowly grinding away. Okay, so that went a lot smoother than I thought, actually. The valve cover is off, and as you can see, it's not looking too bad. The good thing is they did put RTV where you're supposed to put it on these corners, and then on these half moons back here. But as you can tell, there is a good bit of oil around the outside, like all up in there and all down there. So she was definitely leaking a bit of oil. But if you guys didn't know, these valve covers are made out of magnesium. So they are like stupid light, which is sick. But it also is not sick because they're really expensive to replace if you ever want to replace them. So got that guy out. My new gasket. So that guy is going to replace that guy, but of course I've got to take that off, clean it, make it all nice and pretty, and then I can start putting that gasket on. I just spent a bunch of time cleaning off all the old RTV off this guy. It still needs to get cleaned a bit more, so I'm going to go around and clean it some more. But I think we'll start moving on to this guy as well. I'll take off the old gasket, lay on the new gasket, and we'll see how it looks. Okay, so I went around and I cleaned it as best as I could so that all of this is nice and flat, and in there in the grooves there's nothing, no paint, no extra gasket, all that shit in there. As you can tell, this valve cover has seen better days for sure, and the whole reason I'm not taking this off and repainting it, because it is pretty gross, it's just because I need to get this done as soon as possible so I can drive my car to Santa Barbara, and I'll probably end up going to Pick and Pull, picking up another set of these and painting them and making them all nice. But for right now, this works. If you guys ever happen to do this yourself, normally you're supposed to like take a pick and like push these clips out, like pick them out. If I gotta be honest, I don't know if it's just for me, but I also had a friend also recommend this. If you literally just like pull it out, it will be fine. Like, you don't need to go through the trouble of like trying to pick it out. Just make sure you don't lose the clips if they come off. But I was able to just like pull it off on both sides, and it came out perfectly fine. So don't gotta worry about that one. What I'm gonna do while I'm in here is, see those lines right there that run by my exhaust? These guys? These are fuel lines, and I am not a big fan of having fuel lines be right next to my headers with no protection. So I have some heat tape that I'm just gonna wrap around the fuel lines, and that should suffice considering I already have exhaust strap on those. But I just want to double up because I'd rather not melt through a fuel line and have a big fire. That would not be fun. So I'm going to do that. And then I also got this guy all cleaned up. Real nice. So yeah, I'm gonna get to wrapping that guy down there. So it's not the prettiest thing in the entire world, but that doesn't really matter. All that matters is that it works. So as you can tell, I just wrapped the fuel lines up. I bundled them up so that they were all together, and then I wrapped them in the heat tape, and I think that should be fine. So that is one fire hazard less that I have to worry about now. Okay, it's the next day. Not much has happened since last time I recorded on this car, but I did pick up this pressure bleeder from Kian. So if you guys know, my brakes have just not been working and we can't seem to bleed the system 100%. So we're thinking that hopefully this pressure bleeder will be able to push all the excess air that is in my system out, because if not, I'm gonna have to take this thing to a shop and use one of their like fancy bleeding tools to get it to work. So fingers crossed that this works, because I really don't want to pay the price that a shop is going to charge me to do that. Okay, so I put RTV there, and then on the half moons, just a thin layer, and then a tiny little glob, and then thin layer, tiny little glob in there, and then the same on the other side. So we're going to start putting the valve covers on now. Okay, so I was able to squeeze this guy in, but as you can tell, there's very little room back here. So I actually ended up pulling up this battery tray, and that gave me a bunch of room in here, and I'll just bend this back and it'll be fine. The hardest part was the crescent moons in the rear. Since I have so little space here, they kept getting pulled off. So somehow I got it in at the perfect angle, which you guys will see in the video. But now it's just time to tighten them, plug everything back in, and then hopefully it doesn't leak, because I don't want to do this anytime soon. Okay, so after some time, the valve covers are both on and seated. I accidentally snapped one of the bolts, so we had to replace one of those guys. That took a little bit of time, but we got it figured out. So the valve covers, I should say, should be good and ready to go. We're not going to start it because we got to wait for the RTV to fully dry overnight and everything. So now we're going to move on to bleeding the brakes, which I'm nervous about because I don't know if it's going to work or not. But yeah, fingers crossed. Okay, so unfortunately we were not able to bleed the brakes because I don't have clean brake fluid, and you can't buy anything because it's Sunday night at 9 p.m. So instead, we're gonna clean up this muffler because for whatever reason it's painted black and it's really ugly. And I don't know how I feel about the downturn tips, but we're gonna polish it and make it nice. And then if I don't like the downturn tips when we put it on, I can cut them off and change that later. Okay, so I was also able to put on the front sway bar, which I wasn't totally sure if I was gonna be able to. But it clears perfectly fine, which is cool. So I'm just tightening the last bolts for this guy, and then I will have a front sway bar again, which is nice because this definitely makes a big difference. Alright, one thing that's crazy that I was not expecting is here is my old X-brace that I wasn't able to run anymore with the long tube headers that I had on, but somehow it fits now, which is really cool because this actually makes a really big difference. And then also Alex went ahead and polished the tips so they look all nice and pretty on there. So I'm gonna clean this up because as you can tell it's been sitting outside. She's got some rust on her. I'll lay a coat of paint on it and then I can put that in, and then also the exhaust just needs a couple flange bolts and then that can go in as well. Alright, so I went ahead and I just laid a coat of paint on the X-brace because it was all fucked up. So I'll let that dry overnight. And then we got the exhaust very roughly mounted up just with the hanger. And I'm not totally sure how I like the way that it's set up, considering it is downward facing and you like literally can't even see it, which I don't know if I hate that part. but I'll run it for a little bit, see how it sounds. If I don't like the sound, I'll change it, or if I don't like the fact that I can't see exhaust pipes, I'll change it. But I'll leave it for right now, and it'll be nice so I can drive around the neighborhood and not feel like a complete asshole with a car with no muffler and everything, because even though it sounded really good, it was just way too loud. So I think tomorrow I'll pick up the camera when I bought brake fluid, and I can go and try to pressure bleed the brakes, see if I can get that to work, because to be honest, it's like the brakes, the X-brace, the skid plate, and then mounting the muffler, and this thing is like 100% ready to drive, other than like my speedometer not working, which is just sensor, my brake light's not working, which is just a sensor, and my reverse light's not working, which is just a sensor. So those should be like a simple fix. But other than that, it's like it is very, very, very close to being 100% like ready to go on more than just around the block and up some streets by my house. So that is pretty hype. I think I'll pick up the camera tomorrow, so I'll see you then. Okay, it's the next day. A bit of a late start to the day, not gonna lie. It's like almost 3 p.m. now. So we're just gonna get right into trying to bleed these brakes, because I think that's the most important thing for right now, for sure. Guys, I think after many sleepless nights, we have fixed the biggest issue on this car that has caused me many pains. The brakes actually like work. The pedal doesn't go down to the floor anymore, which is insane. You guys should have seen my face when I felt that pedal for the first time after bleeding this thing with Kian's amazing pressure bleeder. If you ever have issues with your braking system and your like pedal goes to the floor, buy one of these. They're literally godsend. But so I just mounted the reservoirs. That's looking good. Now I'm just going to put on the exhaust bolts, put on the wheels, and then I'm going to go for a test drive to see if the brakes actually work, because I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, but the fact that the pedal actually like works is unbelievable. Like it is, I'm so fucking glad that is hopefully figured out, because that was by far the biggest issue we've ever had. Like the brakes just did not want to work for the entirety of this build. So yeah, I'm gonna button up the exhaust and hopefully we'll go for a drive. Okay, as you guys can see, if I'm driving, step on the brakes, oh, we stop. Isn't that so amazing? Isn't it so nice to like actually have brakes on my car? Oh, that is one thing that is, I'm just so glad to at least have it stop properly now. So I'm just gonna take it down, a little test drive, make sure everything works fine, and yeah. I think that's about it for right now. Okay, so she made it back in one piece. Everything seems to be driving fine. The brakes work. I mean, they're manual brakes, so they kind of suck. You just gotta like really, really step on it so that it brakes. It brakes fine. It's just like you really gotta push on that pedal to make sure that it stops. So it's gonna take me a little bit to get used to that for sure. But this thing is just so rowdy. It's so fun. So basically all it needs now is like, I'm gonna put the X-brace on, put the skid plate on, because I really don't want to mess up this oil pan, and then get an alignment, and it's like buttoned up, ready to go on some more long drives. So expect a toge video very, very soon with this thing. Currently the road that we like to toge is closed because it's flooding like crazy right now, so we gotta wait until the roads are drivable and it's dry, because this thing is not fun in the wet whatsoever. I went on a little test drive with my friends, and it got out on me on like second gear, and we were like monging, going crazy. It was fucked. It was really bad. I scared the shit out of one of my friends, which is funny. But yeah, this thing is scary in the rain for sure. So I'm a little nervous about that. But as long as I keep it tame and don't gas it in the wet, I should be okay. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the final touch-ups on this beautiful M60 E30. I can't believe it's coming to an end. This build is actually coming to an end. It's just final stuff, and then this thing is ready to go. So yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe. We are slowly going up in subscribers. My videos are doing really well. I appreciate every single one of you guys that watches these videos. It means the world to me. Peace out.